In the United States, a huge forest fire in Northern California has spread into Nevada, forcing communities to evacuate. Nearly 80 wildfires are burning across the U.S. West Coast. The largest is Oregon's Bootleg Fire. DW's Enos Pohl reports on the devastation left in its wake.
The nation's biggest fire has already destroyed an area larger than Los Angeles. The mega fire is burning so hot that it essentially generated its own weather pattern and spread dangerous smoke as far as New York City. The fire is moving so fast that many ranchers weren't able to rescue their cattle. The small community of Sprague River is just a few miles away from the edge of the fire. Summer has been living here for more than 20 years.
I know that there's probably hundreds of cattle that have been lost, and there's probably hundreds of cattle that are still out there. The Janes lost a bunch. The Yamsey Ranch up Joe Jane, they lost some. The Gallaghers out here at Whiskey Creek Ranch, which are like my family.
The fire department put out signs across the area to keep people updated. Brand and his wife recently moved here to start a new life as farmers.
This fire has been much bigger, and seeing the clouds from it and just seeing the containment line only be about this big right here for days and days and days, it's been a big one.
Many experts are convinced that the extreme heat and drought fueling the fires in the US is caused by climate change. And it's also why mega fires are becoming more frequent. More than 100 families already have lost their homes to the flames, and thousands are evacuated. It's totally unclear how long it'll take until firefighters have the flames under control. Many roads are still closed. The National Guard has been deployed to control traffic. In many areas, only ranchers are allowed in to check on their cattle. According to officials, the fire was sparked by lightning. Those who have been fighting fires for years see a pattern.
I think it's possible it could be connected to climate change. Yeah, it's over the past 4 years, every fire season seems to get longer and hotter.
More than 20,000 firefighters are battling dozens of massive wildfires in the US right now, and the fire season has only just begun.
As we mentioned, fires are also raging in California. For more, I am joined now by Jason Campidonia, the Los Angeles bureau chief of iHeartMedia. Welcome to DW, sir. What's the situation right now in California?
It's very hot, it's very dry, and it's very windy across the state. The mega fire in Northern California, the Dixie Fire, exploded to over 140,000 acres. There's also the Sugar Fire, which is well over 100,000 acres, and the Tamarack Fire, which started on July 4th as a lightning strike, has now grown to over 50,000 acres. So it's not looking very good, especially with temperatures rising over the weekend. So the next couple of days are going to be crucial. Humidity levels are rising, but it's not enough to make any sort of impact on the firefight.
You rattle off the names of those fires. It's like a litany of woes. How are authorities coping?
Right now they're throwing everything they can at it. Unfortunately, the high winds in some of the areas we are preventing helicopters and fixed wing aircraft to get in there and drop fire retardant or drop water of any kind. So they're relying on hand crews and bulldozer lines and things like that. And really the firefighters are fighting exhaustion. They've been out on these fire lines for several days now, and it's really starting to make an impact.
You know, Jason, I should mention I lived in Los Angeles for a decade and left back in 2016. For at least half the time I was there, I clearly remember scientists saying these wildfires could be the new normal. I suspect if that's true, you've already been living the new normal. What do residents want from the government to be prepared for the next big blaze, which it sounds like could happen any time?
That's an excellent point that you bring up. And I really believe that when temperatures start to cool in January and when the winter hits here, the big story is going to be the overtime cost that it takes to have firefighters on 24/7, 365, have strike teams in place, and be able to put out spot fires as soon as possible. I really believe that that will become the story as the year progresses and into next year. And people just want lives and property saved. They don't care how, they don't care how much it costs. People who live in these fire-prone areas are just asking for any sort of help from the government, local officials, state government, federal officials. They don't care. They just want to make sure that their homes are safe and their family is safe.
Their homes and their families. And yet, every single year when these fires hit, there's always the question of why it is that people live in these fire zones. And given the discussion that's happening around climate change these days, I have to ask the question whether that is an issue that is raising its head again. Or is there a disbelief among folks in California that there are people who still put themselves in danger by moving into these areas, beautiful though they may be?
So I believe it's solitude. People like living out in the middle of nowhere because they don't have to deal with the hustle and bustle of city life. But it really depends on who you ask, because there's two sides of the coin. There's the climate change side of the coin, and then there's the forest management side of the coin. And if you get in there and you brush the forest and you clean the forest floor, it might prevent some of these, mega fires from breaking out in areas where people live. And there's also people that are, clearing brush, 50, 60 yards away from their home to keep their home protected. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. With the gusty winds, an ember from a wildfire, from one of these massive pine trees or sequoia trees up in Northern California, one of those embers can branch off and be a flaming bowling ball and hit over a mile away, which will start another fire. And then there goes those resources. And then the resources on the main fire become extremely thin. So it really depends on who you ask. And climate change is definitely in the conversation.
Jason, are local authorities and residents getting any kind of federal assistance here?
At the moment, Governor Gavin Newsom, who is facing a recall election, has said that he is going to ask federal authorities for more money. But we've already got giant tankers, which, can be used some of the time, but not all the time. We've got helicopters. And when the bills come from all the overtime, that's when the federal assistance will really kick in.
That is journalist Jason Campidonia there in California reporting for us, really. I really do appreciate your time, sir, and stay safe.
Thank you so much.